Hello, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? My name is Radwan Masmoudi. I'm the president of the Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy. It's my pleasure to join you today in my first episode of a podcast on Islam and democracy. Today I want to talk about the earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. The terrible earthquake that happened this week, a few days ago. Roughly 20,000, maybe more, people have died so far, and over 60,000 are injured. So we want to remember them and pray Allah to protect them, to bless the dead, and to protect those who are still alive, and to help their families to overcome this terrible tragedy. Also a reminder how delicate life is, and how much we need to cherish every moment and every second of this life as a gift from Allah to us on this earth. We are still alive only thanks to Allah, thanks to God for His mercy and for His bounties, and we have to remember that every day and every second of our lives. So let us pray for those who have suffered and are still suffering from this terrible tragedy, and let us remember them in our prayers. May Allah help them and protect them. The topic I want to talk to you about is the response of the governments of Turkey and the governments of Syria to this tragedy. And I think there is a lot we can learn from this response. And mainly, the comparison is really astounding. We see how in Turkey we have a democratic government that is not perfect and has probably made some mistakes in the past, but at least it is accountable to the people, and it knows that it is accountable to the people. And we see the tremendous response of the Turkish government. All the ministers are working day and night, and the president and all the government agencies or the ministries are working day and night to save every life. And we see how much resources have been put to help save and protect all the innocents and all the victims of this tragedy. That is what is expected in a democracy. That is the response of a democratic government that is accountable to the people and that knows that it is accountable to the people. On the other hand, a very stark contrast with the government of Syria. That is not democratic, that is very authoritarian, as we all know, and that has already done a lot of damage to its own people and its own country. But the response to this tragedy, to this earthquake, is also shocking. It's as if they don't care. It's as if they don't care. They have not provided anything to help the victims. They have not done any massive effort to support, to recover the victims, to help save the victims, to protect the victims and their families. We see nothing. Although there is international media covering the borders and covering the areas in northern Syria that have been devastated by this earthquake, but we see that the government of Syria is almost careless, does not care about what is happening there, and is almost doing nothing. In fact, we can also argue that it is imposing sanctions or imposing a ban on aid to the people of northern Syria. It's not allowing aid to go through either the airports or through the land. It is severely restricting international aid and is not cooperating with international agencies to provide the aid that's necessary. So you see the contrast, you see the difference between how a democratic government responds to a humanitarian tragedy and puts all the resources of the government at the disposal of the victims, at the disposals of the people, because it's a government that is accountable to the people. Again, it's not perfect, and I'm sure it has made a lot of mistakes, but ultimately it is accountable to the people, and it knows it. but a dictatorship like the one in Syria, but also like the ones we have in most of the Arab world, unfortunately, and most of the Muslim world, unfortunately. They don't care. They don't care how many people die. They don't care how many people are suffering. They are just watching them as if nothing is, as if they are not human beings, as if they are not people, citizens who are suffering from this tragedy. They don't care. And this is really an important lesson that we have to learn. We need democracies because democratic governments are accountable to the people. They care about the people. They are ultimately accountable to the people. Dictatorships, whether extreme dictatorship like the one that we are seeing now in Syria, in Damascus, but also less extreme, let's call them dictatorships, in Tunisia, in Egypt, in every other country. They don't care. They will pretend that they care. They will do a little bit as a show, but they really will not work overnight. They will not work day and night, and will not provide all the resources that are needed to help the citizens. This is why we must strive for democracy. We must work hard. We must really renew our efforts to support and promote democracy in the Arab world, because it is the only way that we can protect our people, that we can protect the innocents, that there are so many other benefits to democracy, but this is the number one. This is the main one, or the first one that comes to mind, especially in response to this tragedy, is that it is a government that will protect the people, that will do everything it can to protect the citizens, because it is accountable to those citizens. This is an important lesson. As Muslim Americans, as American Muslims, as people who care about the situation of our brothers and sisters in Turkey, in Syria, across the Arab world, across the Muslim world, we have to do our best to solve the crisis in the Arab world, to solve the crisis in the Muslim world, not only by helping them through aid and relief, which is important in a tragedy like this. Of course, we have to send them as much help and as much relief and assistance as we can, whether it is financial or in terms of medicine or clothing or food, or all the agencies are doing whatever they can to provide the relief. But ultimately, it's not only about relief, because relief does not solve the problem. What about the next tragedy that will happen? What about poverty and unemployment and sickness and all the crises that we see in the Arab world? We have to solve these problems. We have to find solutions to these problems. Relief is needed, but relief is not enough. We need to do an equal amount of effort to resolve these problems, and I believe the solution is to establish democratic governments. Democracy is not a panacea, is not a solution for everything, but it makes the government accountable. It makes the government responsible in the eyes of the people, and therefore the government will do its best, will do whatever it can to help the people, to protect the people, because it is accountable to the people. That's a big difference, and I want you to think about it, and think about what it means for the lives of those innocent civilians, our brothers and sisters, again, in Syria, who today are suffering, and they are not receiving the help that they need. They are not receiving the equipment that they need to save their members, their brothers and their sisters and family members under those rubbles. And it is because the government doesn't care. It is because the government is not accountable to the people. Thank you very much. This is the first podcast, and I hope you follow our channel. I hope you let me know what you think about these discussions. If you have any more questions, I will hope to address them in the future. But this will be a weekly podcast on Islam and democracy. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum.